So, welcome everybody. For those who were in the Zweihander game, Roar and Caleb, this game will be very similar to that in a lot of regards. The Zweihander game was a bit sandboxy. It was a location-based adventure where you were in a city and you chose between sessions what you wanted to do and what your agenda is. In this game, it's much more linear. We all start on a shared premise that we all agree on together. That's part of the adventure. There are two adventures that kind of like go one after the other. But otherwise, the game system is almost identical to Zweihander. The game itself is, for those of us that have played in that. Everybody else, if you've played any of the Warhammer Fantasy or Warhammer D100 systems, that's what this game is, and the engine that runs it. Now, this is a very, admittedly, under the hood, complicated game. 400-page long rule book with a ton of subsystems. What I want to do is I want to talk to you, and also it's a very loaded world, a setting, an intellectual property that has a ton of assumptions, of which people can be very different on. So what I want to do is talk to you all, and I kind of have our game, the table itself, and what my goal is with what I prepared for this adventure, what the system is like and what the universe is like. And I want to get through all that, and then let's just talk about characters. And I'll stop with each. This will start straight in like the same stuff for every table, but I go over it with every game. Absolutely no politics, none at all. That's not a whistle. None. No faction of any flavor. I just don't do it here. That we're kind to one another, that we toss the ball back and forth and share the spotlight. We don't pick on one another or any of that kind of stuff. It's not what we do. And then my idiosyncrasies are no harm to animals or infants or children unless they're demons or ghost babies or something like that. And if you see an evil baby in my game, it's not an actual baby. This has come up a weird amount of times, but it happens. It's not, but no. If a world is, if an exterminatus happens to a world, you can assume that children are dead. That happens behind a veil. We don't go into it and talk about it. Absolutely no sexual or romantic content at all. None at all. This campaign, and this is stuff I'll talk about, is the goal is to actually inhabit the Imperium of 40K, to kind of feel like you're in that world and then role play from that point. As such, it's a loyalist game. So this isn't like, and I'll talk about that later. It's also role play heavy. I don't think this game will work unless we role play. And there will be a lot of what do you do, and that's very much like take that, interact with other characters, interact with the world, and use that to actually role play this character and explore get into the character deep. And then if you can't make it, just let us know. Don't ghost us. And then I don't do any rules lawyering at all. However, I'll talk about my approach to modern games, which most of you have played in my old school games. And I actually approach trad games, which I'll from here on call modern games. This game is from 2009. I approach them differently than I do old school Renaissance games, and I'll talk about that. And then the lore itself, that's kind of like rules lawyering. And I think that what can happen in these IP games is if we get excited about it, we'll stop role-playing and we'll start talking about 40K. I'm going to try to not do that, and we'll try not to do that. But we'll do it before the game and after the game, and I probably can't help it because I'll get excited about it and I want to talk about it. So, I also, like, specifically invited you all because I really enjoy playing with you all, and I think that you all could do this kind of like serious, dedicated table, in-depth roleplay type game. I think you all would be good at it. So you were handpicked, like reached out to you specifically. So, okay, the rules themselves. Did anybody have any thoughts about them? Or is there anything that you want to add? Like, is there something that you do not want to go into or anything like that?
For the most part, I felt that the rules are about as straightforward as a D100 system can be. There's kind of like it's one of those systems where you have like little bits kind of spread throughout, and there might be some cheat sheets online to find to help out with these, but it's kind of like this is not really me complaining, but mostly me like kind of calling attention to it, right? And there's stuff like the certain malices that you have when using weapons are only really mentioned at the start of the weapons section. Like a basic weapon requires two hands, but if you use it with one hand, you use it with a -20 penalty, things like that.
Yeah, yeah. So totally, we'll talk about that. Why is my ping? I can't. It's got to be a different color. Give me green, so I look like I'm a cogitator. Come on, green. Make it green. Okay, there we go. And then map layer. Okay, so we'll talk about that. So this is kind of like my agenda of things that I want to talk about, and I definitely want to like crack open the game and offer like this is how I see it. This is my limitations on how I could prepare it and run it, and and then get your all's feedback on that for sure. Because yeah, 400-page rule book, very hefty game. Some of which I'm excited about. Some of it I'm kind of intimidated by, and I'll tell you how I kind of approach that and get your all's thoughts on it as well. About this like kind of table culture stuff, do you all have anything that you want to add, or anything about that kind of table culture stuff that you want to share? Something that you see missing, or
What do you mean missing?
well, is there something that like you do not want to see? I'm trying to think.
Not at the moment, no.
Alrighty.
One thing does come up for me, and I don't know how others feel about this, and I'm both in my time as a player and as a GM, I'm not a big fan of, let's call it protracted player torture scenes where the players are, kind of trying to hustle down information out of an NPC, and they go out of their way to describe every step of the process, if that makes sense. That's the only thing that really comes to mind for me that's different from what you have lined out, Ross.
I'm glad you mentioned that. I can't. There are some examples of things that are torturous that I think that could fit in the genre that I think we ought to peel back here. So I don't think there's any reason that we need to have a scene where you like torture someone. Although other games in this, like the Dark Heresy game, you could be like a torturer. That could be your job, or it could be a part of being an inquisitor. Because that's kind of hard to get around sometimes, depending on what's going on. But as a rogue trader, I don't see why you would have to do it. However, what could happen, I think, is things can torture people. Like they can be torturous. For example, those afflicted by the warp, being electrocuted, having horrible thoughts, being tormented by the things that they see. These things are at the heart of it. But us players and characters like doing that to someone, I don't see why we would ever need to physically torture someone. You all, I don't think we need. So I think I could add that to the list. But is that okay? And we'll talk about content too. I think that's the first thing I was going to talk about after this. Is like, here are the no's, but then the next thing. Actually, let me just skip to that.
Well, before we before we flee basic rules, something that I observed was not present. I don't know if it comes up later, but I wanted to inquire. PvP, I assume,
very good.
is no?
I probably won't be doing it.
Yeah, no PvP. I agree. Everyone, and we'll also a little nuance to that, actually. I make an exception for that under 2 circumstances. Thank you for bringing PvP up. I need to add that to this. I can do it if something takes control of the character mechanically. So in D&D, like a charm person.
Oh, of course, that's awesome.
You know, or in this case, if the warp gains hold of you, or you gain enough corruption points and become a daemon host, and actually just like are no longer yourself, then suddenly you are the bad guy. And yeah. The other possibility is that you start to slide that way and gain more corruption points, and I'll make you a deal to become an NPC. And that's how your character can go out. I'll say, hey, you want to betray the party? And that will be a pathway to, you know, your character's story ending and becoming an NPC. Those are 2 exceptions. But just simply, actually, this came up with me recently, being like, I'm actually going to shoot my other party member and betray. No. or even, I'm not going to help them with this combat. I'm going to go somewhere else. I should note, one of the things for me is like, we all do it together or we just don't do it. I don't do this hub and spoke, hey GM, I want to do this, hey GM, I want to do this. No. We're all going to go do it together, or we're not going to do it at all. So, and I'll offer up a vote, or I'll like designate a caller to build a consensus or something like that. Good point. Anything else? Is that okay as far as PvP? I think it's what you already kind of dealt with me before, right, Caleb?
Yeah, that was the expectation. I just wanted to, touch that.
Yeah, and no torture. Like, the player characters are not going to torture a character. Yeah, we're not doing that. You will only be tormented by otherworldly things. You won't be captured and tortured or something. There won't be like torture scenes, if that makes sense.
But to make it clear, it's not like it's mostly like the protractedness of it. Like if there's some sort of a veil thrown in front of it, it's not like it's something I'm going to complain about, but it's kind of like, I've had experiences where players were trying to, kind of extend what was happening and be very specific. I don't really feel there's a need to role play that sort of a thing out, if that makes sense.
No, especially with this specific team. This is something important for us to remember when we get to building our characters, though, because somebody could build like I want to be like an evil doctor that tortures people. Let's not do that. We'll do a different character. I'm going to skip ahead to the what will be in the game, since it's a table culture thing. Extreme violence, like maybe NC-17. Like, this is a violent world and game, and when it happens, it will be gory. Body horror, things happening to people's bodies, like mutating and grisly things. This is a R-rated game. The world itself is awful world. Like, and constantly certain themes are going to be reinforced. The dystopian themes, supernatural and religious themes, and then existential and cosmic horror. That's kind of like my content warning of like, I don't think there's a way around it. This is what the game will and the world will be like.
Bring it on.
Yeah. The game is linear. That means that we have like a fixed starting premise and goals, and those will be, we'll talk about that right, soon, and then you'll operate on that premise and goals. So the way it makes something linear is and I'll just say it. The first thing is that you have received a salvation beacon from a cruiser lost in space, and the Imperium has said it's yours. That's a big deal because, like I said, these cruisers are like almost a mile long and just full of stuff, and it's all yours now. You can go get it. Of course, it being abandoned, something's wrong. You know that going in. So, you know, when I say the game is linear, what I mean is we're always going to operate from the premise of your goal is to go there and get the thing, right? So it's not, you know what, I changed my mind, we're going to go somewhere else. I'll be like, oh, well, I don't really have that prepared. So, you know, and it's a modern game with post-OSR techniques. So we'll roll dice frequently, and you're expected to, you know, you don't, but as a post-OSR technique, please don't ever say, I want to do a recon check. Instead, I'll say, well, what is your character doing? And then you can propose a check, which is different than the OSR in that I want you to propose a check. I want you to have that authority for your character to say, you tell me what skill you want to use. And unless there's a really good reason, if you have a reason for using a skill, the answer is just yes, use that skill. So a modern game, like in how games were in 2009, it's the 3rd edition era. That might have been 4th edition, but the game is...
Well, everyone is still playing 3rd, but for all intents and purposes.
The game is really 3rd edition. I'll talk about that in a second, but to me, when I think about it that way, it really simplifies the game since I come from D&D. And we're going to play the game that way. You're going to do skill checks, and you're going to build a character if you want, and you can get really deep into building a character. Like, you can get really specific with it. A couple of introductory adventures, which could last a few weeks. And we do it weekly. If we have 2 players, we roll. And we're going to play, maybe unless there's like some climactic event and we decide to wait, you know, for people. And if you can't make it, we just keep going and we keep playing. And we'll try not to kill your character. But they're involved, you know, so like if you're on a ship and the ship is destroyed, well, your character's going to die, if that makes sense.
We know what kind of setting it is.
Yeah. Okay. That is the table culture stuff. Any thoughts or additions or subtractions to the content or table culture or what 40K or Rogue Trader, the kind of content stuff, content warning? No? Okay.
Pretty much cool with the violence, pretty much cool with the religious terror, pretty much cool with the mutations. If a very young kid or unborn kid is splattered against a wall, maybe that might be a smidge much for me, but otherwise, yeah, Coproderm, man, Coproderm.
Hey, yeah, so I won't do that. I won't do kids being hurt. I don't like that. But yeah, otherwise, very violent, gory, rated R game. Okay, so here's what I want to try to do, and then at the end of these, just like this, I'll be like, all right, what about, you know, tell me what you think about this. And in particular, just as an example, I'm going to talk about 40K, right? So I know 3 of you, or at least, are really passionate about 40K. And so it's okay if we have different ideas about it. But I think the most important thing, this is maybe a hot take. I think the rules are the least important part. One of the most important things we can talk about, and I'll tell you how I approach like a complex rule set like this, and so we'll talk about that. But the way more important thing is talking about the fiction and having a shared idea of what it is we're doing. Because, and I've seen things recently where I'm like, that is not 40K. And I'm glad y'all are having fun, but that's not 40K. And it's okay that we have different ideas. That's not a problem. But one thing that we certainly need to do, because the goal of the game, which we'll talk about in a second for me, is like with people I trust and with people that I have a good time with, I want to really inhabit this world. Because I've listened to actual plays where they're playing in a 40K game and they're not really savvy on the setting, which is fine. I don't think you need to be. but then they kind of joke about it, which is funny. Like, it's funny to be in a grimdark place and then joke about it, but then you lose that simulation and you're not really in a 40K game. So to do that, I think it's important that all of us are able to offer, like, this is what 40K is to me, or this is what, like, this is the non-negotiable thing. Like, this is the thing that it just doesn't make any sense to me anymore. I don't feel like I'm in it. And that's uniquely important to a game like this, I think. Mason, have you played 40K, like either the tabletop or read the books or video games or? Uh-oh.
Very little. Hello? Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now.
All right. Discord's acting weird. Anyways, I have very little experience when it comes to 40K. I mean, I have like a surface level, like I've heard about it, and I know a little bit about it, but any questions about it, I won't be able to answer.
Sure, yeah, and I'm at this point a little more kind of re-entering it. Like I used to be obsessed with it and know just everything about it, and I used to read every Black Library book and everything, but I'm more kind of casual now and re-entering it. Yeah, I think having that shared premise of fiction is the most important thing, and I think having principles is more important than specifics. Like, but anyways, that's why. So we'll talk about what is the goal of the game. What we already talked about, kind of like what the scheduling and style of the game would look like. What 40K is, what the tone and genre of the game is, the actual nuts and bolts of how the RPG would work, and then we'll hop into like doing that life path system, which is I'm really excited about. Okay. Okay, so what I want out of this, I'm going to share with you all what I wanted. Is I was sitting around, I'm playing a lot of tabletop games because of my spine, my spinal injury, and I'm like, man, I am hankering for a Warhammer game, and I want to just like be in that world with some friends. That's like, so that's what my goal is, and I think to me, when I combine the system that Roar suggested for this, and then everybody kind of voted on, it is narrative focused, but it's a tale of action. Like, it should be cinematic. And that's something really important to me that I'll talk about when we get to the system, is I don't want to lose that sense of cinema and role playing to how clunky it looks sometimes, or how thick the rules seem sometimes. And then I want to actually get into these characters. Like, I want to get character concepts and then like explore what that looks like. This is not like my other games. This is not like my DCC game or Otherworld, where it's open table and gamey, and it is definitely not Dungeons and Dragons. It's mechanically Dungeons and Dragons in a lot of ways, but it's not an open kitchen sink, here are some common gameplay assumptions in RPGs. This is something specific and different. So that's my first question, is what do you want out of this game? Alex?
I'm mostly just looking forward to having a good time. I always have fun with you, and I think
Thanks, man.
I think the premise of this is kind of what I'm looking for with the 40K game, especially when you talk about sticking to the principles rather than the absolute specifics of the rules. That's definitely something that makes me feel a lot more interested in getting involved in a Warhammer-oriented game. But in terms of beyond that, I'm open for anything.
Right on. What about you, Tanner?
Pretty similar to what Pompey said. I can say from what I want out of Rogue Trader is not just the heavy metal 2000 AD, so dark that if you don't laugh you'll cry sort of experience that people really enjoy. I do know that Rogue Trader tends to be more exploration and uncharted stars and stuff like that than the sci-fi Cthulhu of, say, Dark Heresy, although I'd be heartbroken if there wasn't at least a little bit sci-fi horror Cthulhu. for obviously a good mix of talking, exploration of derelict fleets and planets and stuff like that, and of course, blood splatter is a-okay by me. Um, admit it's a little difficult for me to say because I'm much more of a Warhammer Fantasy fan than I am a 40k fan, but I do still respect that early flavor where the Emperor of Mankind is a flayed corpse on a throne, and there's clams that come out and bite your feet if you get too close.
Yeah, I'm glad that you bring that up because those are some things I want to talk about when we discuss the fiction. Yeah. Because I think this is something specific, and one of the things that I'll bring up is that it's difference with fantasy. Because I would note that this is very different from fantasy.
Ooh, yes.
As I look at it, and I'm more of a 40k person than fantasy, but recently really fascinated with fantasy and really enjoying it and learning about it. And
Games Workshop made some great settings, man.
yeah, I mean, I'm enjoying it. I downloaded Age of Sigmar, not Age of Sigmar, no, the MMO, the Warhammer Fantasy MMO on a private server. I was trying that out and having fun and stuff. I've just really been getting into it, but they're very different. And also, and another thing I want to note is this is not appreciably different than any other 40k experience. I think 40k is different based on scale, because in 40k you can have a story of being like this common administratum peasant number cruncher in the bottom of a hive city where you're 20 years old but you look like you're 60, and you're just barely surviving, and you're having these messages like those who work protect themselves from corruption, and and like you're just constantly you can explore that, or you can be a Space Marine chapter master who lords over entire worlds, and you have everything in between, right? So in terms of scale there's a difference, but the actual principles of the setting are not really going to be appreciably different. You're still going to be walking on a ship that's a cathedral where you all pray to a corpse god, and prisoners have been turned into robot slaves where you see their teeth sticking out of their skull with a cybernetic, and they beg for release from life as they type out your report for the day. Like, and that's going to be the case.
And that's what I mean by so dark that if you don't laugh, you'll cry, because that's clearly them having some fun at like the employees in the back room and like the accounting students who already act like zombies even though they're like 21.
Yeah. Okay.
Dull, so utterly dull.
What about you
guys?
Roar?
Well, I'm a Warhammer Fantasy fan. I like it more, but I like 40k a lot. I have a lot of like the novels, but yeah, I just want to have fun and try Rogue Trader, explore planets. Maybe, I don't know.
Have you read the Dan Abnett Eisenhorn series, or any of the 3 series? His protege, and then the lady. I can't remember their names, but
I have the Eisenhorn books, but I haven't read them yet. I have Gaunt's Ghost, and I have like an orc novel and
an orc novel. I didn't.
Sisters of Battle.
Right on. Oh yeah, I've read the Fire and Fury, or Fire and Glory, or whatever it is, the Sisters of Battle novel.
Yeah, the orc book is just all written in orc speak.
Okay, that sounds fun. Okay, what about you, Caleb? Like, what do you want out of this? Like, what do you? Yeah.
Well, me, I'm as far as the gaming experience goes, I'm mostly down for whatever. I can have fun with a lot of things, but I think for this game specifically, I really kind of, I want to think about the question, what is Warhammer 40k? And if I can answer that by the end, I think we can call it a win. I have a feeling I am the odd man out in this group who is a veritable baby in the Warhammer scene. I know the basics of the world, and that's it. Just work here.
Right on. All right. Well, what about you, Mason?
I mean, honestly, I am just happy with playing a tabletop game because it's been a minute since I've done that.
Been a minute.
And have been able. And as far as Warhammer goes, like I said earlier, I know basically nothing. So we're gonna be learning. I'm also new to whatever we're doing right now, so I'm trying to figure out what what I'm getting myself into right now. So
Yeah, the game, right? Yeah.
yeah, like I'm looking through that PDF that was in the chat. I'm just like, okay, what are we doing? What's going on?
Yeah. Okay. All right. Let's see. Actually, we already talked about this, so I'm gonna just keep moving. Let's talk about 40K. Let's do it. Okay. So, a few premises, like underlying principles here. I'm not an expert. I've been out of the 40K stuff. I kind of haven't been into it for a while, and just got a hankering, and I'm like, I want to do some 40K stuff, and I want to get in that world. And so I don't know a lot of things. I'm gonna get things wrong. So to me, when you approach something like Star Trek, Harry Potter, Star Wars, something that has a ton of fluff inherent in it as an intellectual property, I think it's important to approach it in certain ways. For one thing, I think it's important not to have lots of specifics that you have to, we got to, as an example, I saw somebody had named the battle fleet for this sector. And I can't even remember the sector off the top of my head, but the sector that this takes place in, they had called it, all right, Battle Fleet, the name of the sector. And then they made up the lore for it. And they did it because they needed to, for something that was going on in the game. It made sense, they needed to do it. Well, that's not in the lore. Not the specific things that they made. And that's important to be able to do in a role-playing game, to be able to, do things like that. So instead, I think principles are important. So I want to present these, and then I want you to tell me, whoa, no, I don't think that is one. Because if there's something that would take away your enjoyment of a 40K game, that's something I think we need to talk about. One thing about 40K is it's something specific and it's not generalized. That's one of the main principles to me is it's not a kitchen sink. It is something specific. It has something specific to say. It has a specific goal. And so it does not include all sorts of things, and it includes certain specific things. The other thing is the humor, which you mentioned, Tanner, I'll address directly. I think it's absolutely so grim that you just sometimes have to laugh. And in fact, not 40K in general, but how I think this game would work. Because there's lots of good humor in 40K, depending on, the orc stuff is hilarious, and whatever that one commissar is, I can't remember his name, Caiaphas Cain or whatever.
That dirty him, yes.
That's hilarious. I've read some of those novels, So there is humor. This one will be very, very grim and very. You'll be surrounded by that. So to me, I think the way it looks. Well, let me actually say what it should not be, in my opinion. What I think would I think what would take away from this experience is if we have something like making a pop culture joke, or making inserting a Hillary Clinton or a Donald Trump joke, or a pop star or a TV show or something like that. Like suddenly when that comes in, it will be funny and it will actually be very relieving. You'll get that catharsis because it feels so grim and all the time. So you'll get that catharsis, but then it'll ruin the tone of the game. Instead, I think humor in this game is Schwarzenegger humor. It's like someone gets stabbed in the head and jammed up against the wall, and then you're like, I guess he got the point. That's 40K humor. That it's low, it's British, it's grim, it's absurdist. That's my idea of how I think the humor would work. I don't know. The other thing is, it is horrific. Like this is, and it absolutely involves, in the end, humanity can't win. Like there are these thirsting gods at the underlying reality of all things. And it is beyond any of you. And you will never learn these secrets or overcome them. This cosmic existential horror, things happening to people's bodies, things happening beyond people's control. And very religious. Actually, let me present this, because I'll skip ahead here. This might be one of my spicy takes. So everyone's a loyalist. Why? Why is everybody a loyalist? Why can't you be a chaos rogue trader? You could. In the book, you could be a chaos rogue trader. I think if we did that, it would take away from actually being in the setting. Because, and I have this idea of like what is something that is a universal social conscience? And I think in our pluralistic 21st century world, there are very few things I can even point to. So 3 come to mind. Jesus, Buddha, and Hitler. Like I have to try. There are some things where Buddha is presented in an alternate way, but no one in the world is like, man, Buddha was such a jerk. And it doesn't matter if he is or isn't. That isn't the point. The point is there's this kind of shared consciousness that we have that's cultural, where you just say, well, of course he was good. Of course he was good. And we also have that about Hitler, right? Like there's a shared universal consciousness that we're like, Hitler, his name itself has become, if you want to call someone the worst human being, you use his name. That's how bad he is, right? And we don't have a lot of things like that in the 21st century, but when you live 41,000 years in the future in this setting, everyone is a loyalist in imperial society. You were raised by your mother to hate the mutant, the heretic, and the alien. And hatred is a virtue. And worship of the God Emperor is unquestioned. So that I think is a like this grim, like underlying starting point for people. And it's hard to get in that headspace as someone from the 21st century, I think. And I'll talk about this alignment thing later, but what I want to point to, why the reason I made this chart is, yes, everyone is part of the imperial cult and everybody's a loyalist, but you should be fighting with everybody. And everybody should be wildly different and have different agendas. Not different, you shouldn't be fighting with characters, but I'll point one out. Puritans and radicals, totally different ideas of what they think serving the emperor is. And I think can be really entertaining and really good role play. So that's like a what is 40K thing, that characters will all be, with the exception of like a Mechanicum character, maybe a Psyker, they're all going to be like that.
Question then. Do you like the idea of us picking our character's alignment sort of from the...
Well, it turns out that it's actually part of that path system that Roar pointed out. That's super cool.
Really?
Yeah, and so, there are like all these dispositions and flaws and things that will lead to your corruption, and you have corruption that leads you toward chaos and stuff. So, ultra violent bolter porn. This is a setting where like jingoism and like might makes right, and we're just going to kill everybody. Like you start out in a ship that hypothetically could just eliminate a planet, like from the very beginning. And if you don't have that, you can attain it in short order. And you can start to exercise that judgment if you choose. If you choose as a rogue trader at the edge of civilized space to start just like removing planets from the galaxy, you can start doing that. And 40K often tends toward stories where that's the ultimate outcome, is like the destruction of entire populations and an entire sector of space disappearing into the warp, and all these kind of crazy things, wars that involve millions of people and stuff. Discomfort, this grim dark. I've already talked about some themes. They should not feel good. they should feel bad. And then finally, this is my point of view of what all this is. Like, why would you want that? And what I'd like to get out of a grimdark game is it serves as a contrast. Because I do like games to have, or I like books and literature and movies and things to have a point. I'm not like a nihilist where I just enjoy pain and suffering for no reason. I like, to me, when I read a 40K novel or book, it will involve a complicated and tragic hero who their human will overcomes what is impossible. Like, they'll face a cosmos of thirsting gods and they'll say, F you. And that's, to me, that's what 40K is about. Like, anyways, that's how I've prepared the game. Those are the adventures I think kind of lace into this, the RPG itself, and then how I interpret 40K. What are your all's thoughts on what is 40K in the setting?
Before I answer that, I need to ask a question to make sure I'm on the right track here. For the really mean, you gotta laugh or you'll cry humor, and the ultraviolence, would it make sense and not break the immersion if someone got his arm blown off, he looked down and, very deeply upset, yelled out, "You destroyed my wristwatch!"
Yes, that would not be good. So, however, let me take that and tweak it, okay? All right. Yes, and actually I want to draw a parallel with fantasy. I'm not as versed in fantasy, but this is my impression of fantasy. Some differences. Fantasy has good guys. That's my impression, that there are actually good people in fantasy and good guys and good factions doing good things. It is grim, but not impossible. And also I see fantasy as far more complicated and diverse. Like, fantasy there's a lot going on, and there are a lot of different factions and things. It's not just humanity against these unknowable alien entities that only wish our destruction. Fantasy is more complicated than that, is how I take it. And inherent within fantasy is British humor. Like, when I observe fantasy, I see that is tied to that.
Yes, it's very much, if you fail your ride roll, you fall down and break a limb, and if you keep failing, by the time you succeeded, you've only got a good limb left.
Yeah, British humor. This is my impression of 40K is not like that. So it is not a setting of, Monty Python type type of humor that could play out in the course of that, and almost is like part of that mud, blood, and piss grimness. I would not say that is part of this. And I, again, would point to, like, Schwarzenegger humor. Where, so someone gets their arm blown off. I think what would make it British is if you're playing a arch militant and they're a former guard soldier, and they're like, Emperor, damn it. And that's a little more subtle, but, like, it's so absurd. Like,
because his name is Dammit.
No, because
Emperor, damn it, that was my writing arm.
Yeah. So, and I would also say that it's almost more oriented toward violence. Not that, like, fantasy ought to be, it's a tabletop game, but 40K is almost just there is only war. There's just violence, and so everything is about every motivation of a person is threaded into that. So yeah, there's less humor of that kind. Yeah, I think so. And I think that would be the case in the adventure, but more than anything, like, pop culture and stuff that takes us out of the setting would not fit.
Of course. Absolutely, I will not be going in here to fuck with the humor. My only concern is that me saying, shoot, I lost my wristwatch. That was me trying to do the Schwarzenegger humor.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm not too worried about it. Yeah.
I will say that, again, this is the good and bad thing about a 30 or 40-year-old game with numerous editions, is that the tone between the two games are sometimes very similar and sometimes very not, because I do know that both were both very funny and the Chaos Gods will win at one point, and then one went in a different heroic direction, the other went in a different heroic direction, and then they became nihilistic for a bit, and sometimes one's lighter, sometimes one's darker. It, the good and bad thing is that you can really customize the setting's tone. The downside of that is that we have to sit down and figure out, okay, what's the actual tone?
Exactly. And that's what we're here to do. And as a touchstone, I would point to this was 2009, and then I will dial it back even a little bit before that. So I would characterize that time as pretty grim and pretty nihilist, as you said. Like, there's a lot of things where now in 2023, Primarchs are awakening, and the galaxy's been split in the middle, and Cadia's fallen, and all this. There's all this movement. A lot of people are very excited about that. But when I think of Warhammer 40k in like 2007-ish, like around that time, they talked about how the Astronomicon was blinking, and they weren't sure, like, it's going to go out, and the galaxy will be cast back into an endless darkness. And
yeah, 40k was much more of a dying world compared to how it is now.
Yeah, and like the Emperor, we can no longer hear his voice as an astropath, and no longer our prayers are unanswered, and all this.
Yeah, 15 years later, 15 years later, and 40k is practically Star Wars, right down to the shinier logo.
Yeah. What do you think, Roar? Help me out here.
Trust me, the doom and gloom is singing in just fine.
Okay.
We can't hear the Emperor, even though
we're all. Part of this is also like,
happen.
Part of it's also me reading the adventures and the book and saying, all right, well, how would this play out? And I could be wrong, but that's kind of my impression of it too.
No, I agree with you. You're absolutely spot on with it. Most of my interfacing with the hobby and setting is basically from reading every rulebook and every codex back to back. I haven't read many of the books, but it absolutely lines up with what you're suggesting, the history of it.
I'd say just look at the cover of like the Dark Heresy and Rogue Trader books, and they're like really dark looking.
Yeah, actually,
grim.
And of note, speaking of those covers and Our Lady here, there's a subtle humor aspect to it that is also just how ridiculously over the top it is all the time. It's like always on. Like, it's the whole, drive me closer so I can hit it with my sword nonsense. Like here she is. I got bothered by this in Darktide recently. She's got this like bolter. This thing could rip her arm off in real life, unless she's wearing some kind of powered armor sleeve or something. I don't know, but like, it's an automatic rocket launcher. Is kind of, I don't know. That doesn't even sum up what that thing is, but it's a giant cannon. And she's just like, yep. And she's wearing a pirate hat. So I don't know.
Oh yeah, like, maybe part of the reason I'm getting a little fuddled up here is that, besides just early Warhammer and 40k, what I'm really into is the stuff that inspired it, and some of the stuff that inspired it was the 2000 AD comics, Judge Dredd, Slane.
Judge Dredd's good, yeah.
Yep,
That's a good example.
especially Rogue Trooper, which is where they got the name from. And in those comics, like, yes, they're very dark sci-fi, they're very rough and tumble. They were constantly exploring, social political ideas, making fun of public figures, and underneath like the grim adventure, they're kind of playing it for a laugh. So that might be where I'm getting mixed up.
Yeah.
Like, obviously, we're not gonna have like Chaos Warriors dressed up like Ronald McDonald or whatever, because I do know that happened in one Judge Dredd story. But
I do want to play that RPG, though. I'm not gonna lie. I do, but
yes.
But yeah, no, I don't think that. Okay, what do you think, Caleb and Mason? I mean, what do y'all think about 40k and what I've presented? Is there anything about it that, like, you're like, I don't know about this part? Like, I mean, what do you think about just the setting and the fiction?
Well, of course, I have numerous and elaborate opinions about 40k. The thing is, I don't. Yeah.
Yeah,
What thoughts do you have on it?
kind of in the same boat. I don't have any opinions, and again, that's mostly due to lack of knowledge about most of this. From the sounds of it.
I should note, I don't think that you need to know anything.
No, but like, I know like basically nothing about 40k or anything in regards to that. So like how dark it is. I mean, from what you're saying, I gather it's a very dark world, but like beyond what you've basically told me, I know very little.
Yeah, and I won't go into it. I think I've discussed the principles of it, talking about, you know, this carrion god that's a skeleton god occupying a apparatus that powers a psychic beacon from the souls of 1,000 mutant humans that are fed to it every day, and you know, and how they will come through, and if they even get the hint that somebody has mutated or changed or evolved, they'll just nuke the entire planet from orbit and kill everyone. And, you know, and
It's the
kind
only
of on
way
the
to make
topic
sure.
of that. Kind of on the topic of that, and this kind of branches off from a couple of the players, couple of y'all. Let me get your names, Caleb and Mason. You two, Caleb and Mason, kind of being fresh faces, taking a look at the setting. A lot of times, what I've found is that a lot of what's written for the setting is very oriented around the war game, which obviously is all about war, and a lot of like the precepts and set pieces for that don't end up really, they don't necessarily define what a role-playing game would be about to the same extent that they would with the war game. So being fresh, being more fresh to the setting isn't a bad thing whatsoever, is I guess
don't
kind of
think
what
so.
we're getting at.
I agree. Yeah, and that actually kind of leads into this. I wanted to mention this idea of like, well, if everybody's a loyalist and we're all starting with that premise, what's the point? What's the story? And to me, this is exactly the thing that makes it so fresh and interesting. It makes it less interesting when it's a kitchen sink. This is not a kitchen sink. We're all here to do something specific and to explore something together. And so, like, everybody has been raised, all of you, even the rogue trader, and I'm not saying there are not chaotic rogue traders, absolutely, of course. But in fact, well, no spoilers, but it's a thing. But and of course, a whole portion of mankind has fallen to chaos. But generally speaking, in the galaxy, the Milky Way galaxy, 40,000 years in the future, everyone is brainwashed with this religion that they all have, and you speak and think from that locus all the time. But from that, humanity still expresses itself in diverse ways that I think would make the role-playing really interesting. And I mentioned this, so like, if everybody is a loyalist, of those loyalists that are rogue traders and mechanicum, like, also, some of them are going to be super religious, and they're going to be like, you other people, you're not abiding by the imperial, the creed. Well, it's not creed now, the imperial cult, the all of our scriptures and the ecclesiarchy and its teachings. And they might get a little violent about it. Meanwhile, other people are like, wait, this world has alien tech? This could help our cause. We should gather these things. We need to know this. We should at least know our enemies. And then the Puritan is like, burn that now. And that's the drama, right? You could also be, and this is one of my favorite ones that's come up, is like, in the religion of the imperial cult, hatred is virtue. Especially hatred towards the mutant, the heretic, and the alien. And so you can be ruthless. You could be ruthless, but also, I don't know, ruthlessly law-abiding. Yeah. Or you could be ruthless but stoic, like, and that would be very British, you know.
Stiff upper lip and carry on.
And this is the fun thing, is you could look to everyone else and be like, no, you misunderstand the Emperor's teachings. He is not just this god of just violence. He's also he protects mankind. He is our only protection and our hope. And you could be this merciful type of person that opposes these other people. The thing that I love the most in stories is when this person gets proven wrong. One of the themes in 40K for me is the crazy people are right, and it's creepy and awful. Is you'll have
Sounds
these
like real
stories.
life.
Yeah, you'll have these stories of like the ruthless people, and then a merciful person, and then the merciful person's like, "Oh, this is why we fight the aliens." Oh, and that's really creepy when that happens. Anyways, I don't know if you catch my drift here, but it's so diverse how you can try to explore and inhabit this world and deal with living in this,
In fear of doing what the game is asking me not to do, the Emperor teaches not to be a fucking pussy.
Yeah, that is one thing for sure. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely like a warrior culture to it as well. Okay, what is Rogue Trader? These are my opinions and how I will express the adventure. You are neither a rogue nor a traitor, and I think that's my problem. This is what I think a rogue trader is. You are a damned space dictator. You are a space king. You have a cathedral ship in space that, like I said, has the ability to just park itself and be like, all of you will die now. And you have the full authority to do that. You are one of the most powerful people in the galaxy, of billions of billions of billions of humans, trillions of humans. There are only a few of you. Because sometime in your past, and I suppose Alex, you're going to be the rogue trader, right? Sometime in your past, you were given a commission, an agreement from God himself, from the Emperor. And he said to your ancestor, from now on, you alone will be free. You alone can do the space capitalism because it worked for me. Because you were free to do what you needed to do in the past, something good happened. We overcome some foe, or we discovered something. And so from now on, you have this ship, and you alone are allowed to go around and do what you want. And that's what marks you as different, is you alone as a rogue trader have freedom and can choose things. And on that, you are on par with Inquisitors and Space Marine chapter masters and these lords of the Imperium that can lord over entire worlds. And I say that because you're not a trader. I think a trader would be like a free trader, somebody that trades in goods. Goods are useless to you. You trade in worlds. You trade in cults. You trade in whole fleets of starships. You start out the game as Emperor Palpatine, and then you try to go up. That's what a rogue trader is to me. And you're not rogue because you are born into imperial society, probably imperial nobility. Probably, great-great-granddaddy himself is a High Lord of Terra and one of the top dogs in the entire Milky Way galaxy. And you can't escape that. It'll always hunt you down. It'll always haunt you. There will be obligations. You exist in this network of humanity. What else? Yeah, that's my idea. So you're not trying to get treasure chests of crap. No. You're trying to get like the relic sword of some great imperial hero that could turn the tide of a war. Or you're trying to get an alien device that can corrupt millions of people or something. Like you're trying to do like demigod level things out the gate.
Can I give a little bit on that, kind of?
What's that?
Kind of say, like, I feel like the rogue part is kind of applicable to the traders, because I look at it from this point of view, in that one of the overlying themes of how 40K, like the 40K Empire works, is there is this bureaucracy that is crushing at times. And I think the rogue half of being a trader is the idea that they are quite literally the only group that is outside the trappings of bureaucracy, and that they're able to go around and kind of do as they please without answering to anyone but the literal highest authority in the world.
Well, as an example, and I don't disagree actually, but by comparison, by comparison to others who live in an overwhelming, overbearing fascist society where everything is dictated to them, their entire life is spelled out, you get to choose. In fact, I don't think it's that you don't have to answer to people. I think it's that you get to chart a course and decide, I'm going to go do this. And profit motive gets to actually guide your actions. That only rogue traders get to do that. But as an example in the adventure, you had to submit a request to the administratum to do this. And it says that in the book. But just because you still exist in this web of imperial things, like, so you're going to deal with the Adeptus Arbites, you're going to deal with the administratum and the ecclesiarchy and the mechanicum, and you're going to have to negotiate with them and all this kind of stuff, or not. Or you can be like, all right, I'm just going to kill you all, and then you can make enemies, and you can choose how you want to go about that. But that in and of itself is bizarre, and like no one else in 40K gets to do things like that.
Am I correct in thinking that like the rogue trader is one of the very few people who are allowed to interact with non-humans without it being an issue?
I'm glad you brought that up. No, comma, yes. No.
Oh.
No, because it's still a big deal. Okay, it's still a big deal. Interacting with aliens is so beyond the skin of a human being in the Milky Way galaxy 40,000 years from now that to do it is, just because you're a rogue trader or a rogue trader crew, the Inquisition, the Ordo Xenos, they will still show up and ask questions. And,
absolutely.
And you were trained from birth to hate the alien and to hunt them and kill them. And aliens have no interest in humanity. The most human aliens just think that you're a monkey at best, an ant at worst. Like, you're nothing to an alien, So it's a big deal, and to be honest, you probably are not going to be friends with aliens in the course of these adventures. And if you ever were, it would be huge. Like, it would be a big deal, even for a rogue trader. But is it possible? Yes. Actually, a better example is, for most of humanity, even speaking fondly in any way of an alien would mean their execution, like as soon as possible. And probably people watch them constantly for signs of that. What makes a rogue trader special is you can get alien tech. And so long as you use it in good ways, people will mostly not ask questions. Except maybe an Ordo Xenos agent might come around knocking and asking questions. So you could get like, an Eldari sword or sniper rifle or something, and you could maybe use it, or modifications to your ship or something like that.
Of course, thank you for clarifying. And obviously, I would never assume a rogue trader game where the squats and Eldar are on the same ships again. Kumbaya fucking yeah.
Yeah, that's one thing I would propose that is, it's still not common. However, to go back to this, you can do it though, and that's the interesting thing. You could be like, of course we should hate them. Of course, there's no question of that. Of course. However, they do have useful things. We should know our enemies. I'll just pretend to be this Eldari's friend. We'll keep him on board, this Eldari Ranger. And even that would be like a far radical, extreme thing to do. But in other parts of the 40K universe, that's absurd, and that would never happen. Like an Eldari Ranger being on the team. I have actually read some novels where things like this happen, and I don't know.
And it happens in way too many video games.
Yeah. Where, let's say that like a space marine is collaborating with an alien. Man, I don't know. That might be where I'm a little more like, I don't know. That's a little absurd. Unless it's just a short path to, okay, we've done the battle, let's kill each other now.
The way as a player I'm looking at it is mostly like we have the principles, whether or not they get whether or not we have to face the twists and the mix up during the campaign. That's where the interesting part comes
Yeah,
in.
I'm not dissuading you all from being radicals. If you think that's interesting, do it. Do it. Do it.
Part of what makes 40K so interesting even is all the what ifs there are, you know.
All right. Any thoughts on Rogue Trader and like the fiction of being a Rogue Trader? Your goal as a Rogue Trader is still to serve the Imperium of Mankind and the Emperor and get rich doing it and become like a space king and just like lord over entire merchant ways across whole planets. And this governor of this planet, planetary governor, he thinks he's in charge. He's kind of in my pocket, and you've got like 12 of those planets. That's like the goal.
I have a question about the Rogue Trader. Not about the Rogue Trader themselves, but about the transitory property of rogue trading. You see, one of us is going to be playing a Rogue Trader.
I'm glad you brought this up.
But the others of us aren't. So, like, if he gets an Eldari sword and then we touch it, do we lose the hand? Or is it like, is there a transitory property of Rogue Tradering?
I think a lot of it is kind of like it's taken from the perspective of kind of the ultimate space nobility, and I'm guessing part of being like a player character in this is that you are in the retinue, you are in the closest circles of this royal person who, as long as you are, remaining in their family's goodwill, being on the side of the Rogue Trader, you fall under the protection of them.
I want to propose a break to the lore, and you all can say no, and I'm down. It's whatever you want to do, whatever would be more fun to you. But the question arises: what if the Rogue Trader dies? And I wanted to propose a slight tweak to say that you are all part of the what's it called? The dynasty. That you all, whether you've been adopted or not, I don't know how it would work with a Tech Priest of Mars, but I'm interested. But I don't know how that would work. But for everyone else, you're not like cousins, but you've been adopted into this dynasty, and you're the inner circle. I don't know. What do you all think? That's not really how these stories usually go, but I do want it to still be a game. And if the Rogue Trader goes
I think
down,
it makes sense. I think it makes a lot of sense actually, because a lot of stuff in Warhammer 40K, it's like there might be a few canon examples, but the way I think I usually view it, at least, is that the setting's kind of malleable in some parts. And I think it makes a lot of sense that there would be Rogue Trader dynasties who have these other bloodlines that have been with them for a long time. Like if you go back 10,000 years, the ancestor of your ancestor of your ancestor was also a guardian of the family, or they knew, or they went off to Mars to learn parts of what it means to be a tech priest, that kind of a thing.
I think the biggest thing is if you guys do get into this and we're having a good time and let's go nuke some more worlds and subjugate some more populaces, you want to do that. Like if the Rogue Trader goes down, I want it to be yours. I don't want some NPC to be the Rogue Trader you answer to, kind of thing. I want it to be your dynasty and your ship and your game. So, okay,
That'd be fine.
Okay.
I don't know if there's like a rule in the book if the Rogue Trader dies, if like somebody just changes class or something.
Yeah, I don't know. But so long as it's your all's game, however we do that, I don't want it to be owned by a DM NPC, if you will.
It does feel like a really interesting narrative point of like, that the Rogue Trader goes down and it's like, all right, what do we do now? Does someone wear his face? Or, yeah. But I assume that's not necessarily, this adventure might be a little more linear than that might allow for.
It'll start out that way, and then it's it's intended to be a bit linear, and then it's whatever we feel is fun from there. But the game itself is intended to be completely open, and there's just this like force in the galaxy on the loose that can go and do whatever you want. And when I say that, I don't mean like Han Solo. I mean like Paul Atreides. I mean like you're like a space king. Like entire systems do what you tell them to, and it even has subsystems for what's going on in those systems while you're adventuring. The absurd thing is you always have to be the Captain Kirk, though. So even though you have a ship that's this massive mile-long cathedral that can destroy a planet and 50,000 to 100,000 people on board, you're still going to go on the planet and do the adventure and fight the bad guy, right? So,
Well, that's how it should be.
but that is Warhammer 40k too. Like the heroes always are right in the middle of everything, even if they're in charge of everything. So, okay. Well, I am so glad that you brought up the character path thing. I want to do it. Can we do it? Can we let's start out first. Like, if anybody's got to go and you got work tomorrow and you just want to pre-gen and you want to roll, no problem. You can pick either the Senescal, because we already have a rogue trader. So you can either pick the Senescal or the Arch Militant. And just let me know and you can roll and we'll shoot you the pre-gen. And I'll put it in roll 20. But some things we can do is we can go to the origin path and start like threading together an existing story of like how you know each other and where you came from. Then we can get to your ship and naming it and building it and to be whatever you want it to be. And then in Roar, if you already have a character, that's fine. Alternately, you know what you could do, Roar? You could take the yellow marker in roll 20 and just draw out your origin path and see where it intersects with others while we're doing this. You know, if you already have it worked out.
Well, let's in the mood everyone for playing.
I will bring up the rulebook.
I do have to check on something real quick. I'll probably be back in 5 minutes max, I think.
Okay.
Cornbread coming out the oven.
Bread. Definitely don't want to let that burn.
This is weird. Why is it not letting me? Oh no.
Oh no, what?
Oh, it looks like it won't let me show the rule book. I can only show browsers, I guess.
Schazahund.
That's stupid.
You stream your screen?
I can stream my screen. That's a good idea. That's a good trick. I can slowly stream my screen. It's very hard to read though, so I don't know if that's gonna work. But let's see here. Yeah, and we'll start right up the top here. Character creation, origin path. So, the first thing you have to choose is you can either choose a homeworld to start on, and it's a type of homeworld, or you can start with the career and you work your way up. Either go from the top down, from where you were born to your career, or you can start from your career and work back. And we just go around and each chooses, and then we like look at it together, and I'll just skim over it, and you know. So let's start with you, Caleb. What do you want to start with, your career or your homeworld?
Yeah, so I'm glad that you started with me because I do know what all of these words mean, for sure.
So the type of homeworld is you could have been born in space, which is called a voidborn, a forge world, which is like a giant factory planet, a hive world, which is like Coruscant, but gross and awful, an imperial world, which I guess I don't know what that one is, nobleborn, would be like your, well, that's self-explanatory. And then a death world is like, this is a radioactive wasteland, and all of you here are like crazy people. Or like there's no oxygen here, or everything here is like a mutant monster that we fight to survive just to live. And you're like, oh my god, you're from what is the name of that world? Katakan, right? Did I get that right, Roar? Katakan. Katachan, yeah. Katachan's like it's like Vietnam world where everything is just like giant snakes and T-Rexes, and you come out of that world and you're like, nothing phases me, like. So anyways, or you can start with a career.
I think I might be more inclined to start career end. I know that you've been mentioning something about tech priests being a good fit for me. I don't know if that's a data point that I would fit in somewhere around here.
So you know how you constantly talk about how you just want to like put new parts onto your body and just like transcend into the machine?
That's a normal person.
That's what they want to do. That their whole religion. So they actually have a separate religion from the rest of the Imperium. I forgot to mention, where like everybody worships the God Emperor, except if you're from Mars. And if you're from Mars, you worship the Omnissiah, which is like you believe that like flesh and being a human is weak, and you need to like replace your parts until you fully transcend into being an ultimate machine. And then you love machines. Like you'll pray to them, you'll soothe their machine spirits, and light a candle and toss incense while you try to like get out a tech manual and get an old computer to work. Roar, did I get that close? What do you think, Roar?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Like they see the Omnissiah as like another aspect of the God Emperor.
Some do, right? So that's another fun thing, is going back to alignment, is like you could have a Mechanicus person who's like the Emperor is simply, and they have good cause to think the Emperor is the Omnissiah, because the Emperor, first of all, walked around in a big giant robot mech suit all the time that was perfect in every way, and secondly, designed everything in the Imperium, because he was also like this scientist genius person and built the Primarchs and everything. So they look at him, they're like, oh, obviously he's the Omnissiah. Or you could be like, he's not the Omnissiah. These sad Imperials, if we could only show them the true way of the machine, And then the fun thing for me for these tech priests is like, if we find alien tech, we are burning it now. And you have good reasons, like there are good reasons to do that. Or the tech priest that's like, wait, new alien tech? What does it do? And anyways, that's the...
Yeah, like there's that tech priest game, and you can install Necron parts.
Yeah, Mechanicum. Mechanicum, yeah. And you have the two tech priests in that game, the one who's like, we must burn the alien tech at once. And then the other guy's like, no, we need to study it, and everything.
Yeah, I think that I could be down for that. That sounds like there's fun there. What would that pigeonhole me into? What would be the obvious tracks there?
Yeah, let's look at it. Explorator. Because apparently the only reason you would be out here as a Mechanicus priest, a priest in the Mechanicum, is if you were an Explorator. So give me the career. I'm sorry, but my computer is slow, but I really want to... Okay. This thing is struggling. Career paths. Explorator. Okay, so it says Explorator. Okay, that is way too much text. I'm skipping that. For some reason it's blocked and I can't read it. There we go. Common lore, the machine cult, archaeotech, machine stuff. But also magic in this world, there's like psyker magic. There's also machine magic. Because no one knows how machines work anymore because we're all in this religious cult and we're afraid to touch machines. So like when you discover technology from like 20,000 years ago, it's like magic, and we call it archaeotech and stuff. And so you specialize in like trying to find that stuff and study it. Yeah, and that's what you're good at. You speak binaric. It says binary. Technolingua. And you're like a computer tech gear person.
All right, that all sounds cool to me.
All right.
I think they come with like a free implant and a free one of the robot followers.
Oh yeah, you get a power axe, a multi-key void suit, sacred unguents, which is just a way of saying machine oil. And you get a servo skull. A servo skull is a person who is either really good or really bad, and they were punished / blessed with becoming a floating skull brain. Because like in Dune, we can't use AI because we had a war with the machines and like 10,000 years ago. And so there's no AI. So we use slaves and we use their brains and their skulls, and they float around and they do computer tasks and stuff for you. Yeah.
Alrighty, love all of it.
Okay, from there, you are red. Pick either fortune, vengeance, or renown as your motivation as a tech priest on the edge of civilization.
I think I'd imagine renown.
All right, can you draw it?
I might be able to. Let's see here.
While you're doing that, I'll skip to the next person. Roar, I see that you're an explorator that picked fortune. And then let's go to Tanner. Do you want to start from your homeworld and work down, or your career and work up?
Little column A, little column B. We've got an explorer, what's the techno guy called again?
They're both explorators.
Oh, interesting, wonderful. And we have a Sarachal and a rogue trooper, right?
Just a rogue trader so far, otherwise.
I'm tempted to go Sarachal, but I also like the idea of the arch-militant.
Yeah.
Causing some shit to blow up. Honestly. Let's take a look-sees. Arch-militant. It's either fortune or endurance.
What do you think, Mason? Which one do you want to...
Also, where are you at right now so I could draw my own line, or is that just not needed?
Yeah, draw your own line, yeah. You're,
and this is the roll 20?
You're
this is roll
blue.
20.
So I was thinking of the arch militant. What I was thinking.
Oh, in that case, I'll be the Sarachal then.
Alright.
Oh, let me,
Is it Sarachal or are we mispronouncing Seneschal?
Seneschal, sorry.
I'm going to make you a color your purplish blue now, Mason.
Sounds good.
But are you on roll 20? Where
Roll
is
20.
Rogue Trader with Mythic? I'm not sure if I got a link for that, but I'll see if I can find it.
It's in the 40K chat.
Oh, there we go.
Okay. So, sorry, Mason, you were saying arch militant?
Yeah, that's what I said.
All right. Of those, you can your motivation for joining the crew of a rogue trader can be either endurance or fortune.
We'll go for endurance.
All right. You can go ahead and draw that, and then Alex, starting from a rogue trader, you can only choose prestige. And
Oops, I'm muted. That sounds good to me. That's actually exactly the kind of character I was looking for. Or,
Forgetting,
motivation-wise.
what was the Seneschal's options again for motivation?
And I'll ping it here. The Seneschal's right here, so you can pick the one across from it or adjacent. So it can be either pride, prestige, or renown.
I'm gonna delete that because I think we shall go for prestige. Where's Mr. Eraserhead? There we go.
Oh yeah, each of these choices they give like stat bonuses and stuff.
Yeah, and I won't go over those. We'll do kind of like role-playing front and center, just because
The way it should be.
just because I didn't go over my philosophy of modern games, and I'll do that if we have time at the end. But we'll pick just based on story and roleplay and see what comes out numbers wise. I will say this is a game great for min maxers though. And I don't even have a problem with it because I actually don't mind it when a game is designed for that. And this game is so. What happens, by the way, while you are kind of looking at your options and picking, and we will go person to person and see because we'll see how they intersect and we'll make a story together. But in between every session, no matter what you do, if you get XP, you can take it and you can automatically build skills with it. So you don't have to wait until you get to a level. Like if you get 500 XP, you can take 2 skills, boom, bumping up right away. And then you'll get a level later on that's just separate from that. So you can kind of like min-max your character into being things that and do builds and stuff. Anyways, back to, let's see, Roar. From Fortune, you chose Shiplorn as your Trial and Travail. I'm going to bring that up. Trial and Travail. Shiplorn. It says that you you gain against all odds and ill-starred. So you were a castaway. Is that what it is?
Yeah, like shipwrecked.
Ah, you were shipwrecked in the past, but in the void, or at least in the black, in space. Yeah. Let's see if anybody else has. And then we've got Caleb from Renown, which is your goal. You can either join your fellow tech priest when they were abandoned in space, or you can choose Calamity or a Dark Voyage.
What do those words mean?
I don't know, but we'll find out together. But I'll bring it up here.
I mean, Dark Voyage sounds cool.
So it says Calamity. I would imagine, something bad happened. Disaster, famine, plague. And it says you were inured to adversity. You gain the Light Sleeper talent and your choice of either Hardy talent or Nerves of Steel and Echo of Hard Times. And your profit factor is subtracted by 1. Or a Dark Voyage. Things man was not meant to know. Marked by darkness. You gain D5 insanity points and a single forbidden lore skill pertaining to your experiences.
Not gonna lie, I'm all about that.
I see. The Dark Voyage, when you're on all the ships in this universe are protected by this field because you kind of have to go
field.
between.
Yeah,
you gotta when you the way that the faster than light travel works is you go between realities to get to where you are, and so you're protected by this field that keeps out basically hell. And if your character went through a dark voyage, that field that protects you from hell went down momentarily, and you had to go through the trepidations of what occurs when such a thing happens.
You tell of the things of claw that scratch at the hull, waiting for the merest flicker of a Gellerfield in the warp, for those things to pour in and devour all, horrifying Xenos and voyages of the damned. These experiences have marked you.
Nice, all about it.
All right. Yeah, you can move yours up to Dark Voyage. And then Tanner, you were a Siniscall that took prestige as your goal. You can either choose a High Vendetta or a Dark Voyage that you were on with Caleb. You choose the Dark Voyage. So this all this happened to you together. Let me ask you all this. Do you want it to be a secret from everybody else? I do like secrets, I'll be honest. I don't consider it PvP. And then you all message each other and come up with like, did your Geller field fail? Are you actually from 500 years ago and you got tossed into the warp and you didn't come out until 500 years later, but some of your crew were changed, you know? Or do you want to come up with it here from the entry?
Well, only myself and Caleb's characters would know exactly what went down, and we wouldn't exactly be in a great deal of hurry to discuss what happened in great detail. Million little things can go wrong on a spaceship. It could have been a sapper on board who was aligned to chaos, trying to make more muties. It could have been a time warp. It could have been.
This has to be supernatural in character. I will say that. If you all want it to be a secret, take the Dark Voyage paragraph and pick the parts that you find most interesting as your secret, and you guys message each other.
I'm totally down for giving you the power to choose because you know this world a bit better than I do.
That is fair.
I'm totally down for the ride.
Okay. And what do I get for Dark Voyage and Prestige, or do we calculate that at the end?
If you don't own the book, I will put it on your sheet for you.
I'll see if I can dig up some files off of my computer, but
you do get some bonuses and some minuses. Okay.
I mean,
High Vendetta is the goal of Alex. This is his character's goal. It says for High Vendetta, I mean, blood will have blood. You choose Die Hard or Paranoia talent and inquiry skill. Brook no insult. You will allow no serious offense to your honor or person or anyone under your protection to pass unchallenged. You have to take a willpower test to avert this wish when it comes up. And something has brought you into a deadly vendetta with another faction or a murderous feud that has consumed your life. Okay, and then we got, scoot back over to Mason. You took endurance as a motivation. From there, your trial and travail in your life can be either the hand of war or you were press ganged.
I think we'll go for being ganged. I'm just picking my norms.
We should absolutely have press ganged him.
Yeah, that's kind of what happened, when I joined this game.
Because
that was my immediate thought. Because you mentioned playing the game where you were like in a prison, and then the ship just came along, and they were like, "Here's a gun, go kill some things." And to me, it's just like, "Yep, we should have scooped him up from somewhere."
And he's an arch militant. He's a guy with a gun. That's who he is. It says skilled men and women with unique, valuable talents, navigators, armsmen. You are a mere commodity, unscrupulous and desperate. You had little choice in the matter, raiding toil under an overseer's lash in the depths of this warship. We want to say it's this ship that you were like, because there's this whole stratum, there's this whole hierarchy, because Alex's character is, like I want to emphasize again, a freaking space king. And you have like tens of thousands of people in the belly of your ship that operate daily that they've never even laid eyes on Alex's character yet. Like he's way above them. And so
forgive me, is it that he's a space king or is he like the space admiral?
I keep using the term space king because I want to emphasize this is not an in-world term, but I say it because you are, by all intents and purposes, a person of absolute and immense authority beyond just a ship. You can command worlds and entire trade networks and space stations and whole other ships that you gain and everything. So,
nice.
A question then is my character? Did you intend for the rogue trader that I play? Is he to be kind of the patriarch of the dynasty, or
I'm going to say yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I don't know. We haven't sussed out yet, like whether you've been on this for a while or whether you just inherited this. But you're the man now. You're the rogue trader. Yeah.
Okay.
Anyways, yeah. Okay. So Mason's character is started out in the bowels of Alex's ship and has worked his way up. And you're a guy with a gun, and you didn't choose to be here. All right. Back to. Roar, you chose to be the Lure of the Void, a renegade. What? Let me see what that says.
Yeah, I think those ones, it has like choices in it, and I chose Free Thinker.
Oh. What? Where is it?
It's up more.
Lure of the Void. Okay. And then from Lure of the Void, you're a renegade, and it says you can choose one of the following effects to apply it. Recidivist, where you gain either an enemy from a copper, an Adeptus Arbitus. I know some people say Arbites. I just really hate that word. I don't know. I know that's how you're supposed to say it.
It sounds too much like overbite.
I know, yeah. And resistance interrogation talents. There you go with the torture. That'd be behind a veil. Free Thinker. Or Dark Visionary, and you chose Free Thinker, and it says, so is this a secret? Are we keeping secrets? I don't mind. You can't. You got to tell me though. You got to like message me if these are secrets, or would you tell the crew?
Like all the Lure of the Void stuff kind of sounds like secret stuff. Like right there, it says tainted, and you have mutations. And
okay, yeah,
like
shoot it.
I don't
shoot
think
it
you would
me
want
then.
to tell people.
Yeah. No, I agree. Tell it. Shoot it to me then later. Okay, so you got Renegade. Let's scoot over to Caleb. From Dark Voyage, you can choose either you were chosen by destiny, a zealot, or duty bound.
Well,
this is the
going on there?
result
What
of
did
your
these
Dark
mean?
Voyage. Duty bound. Let's see. Lure of the Void, duty bound. That'd be nice if they were in alphabetical order. Duty bound, meaning that from your dark voyage, this duty arises from your soul, a call to service, to struggle that cannot be shirked or denied. It is your faith, your honor that impels you. And from there, you can choose either duty to the throne, in this case, I'd say the Omnissiah, which gives you some bonuses and a penalty to interaction tests, duty to humanity itself, or duty to this dynasty. And then, what's the other one is...
Zealot, chosen by destiny.
Zealot and chosen by destiny. Zealot, same thing. You possess a faith so great after your dark voyage that it has carried you far beyond the mundane. Let's see. This faith has led you on a pilgrim's path to the stars, where you bring the God, the Omnissiah's will to the unbeliever and the needy, those who lack the blessing of the machine. Blessed scars, unnerving clarity, or favored of the faithful. And then what's the last one?
Chosen by destiny.
So
How
basically,
about we zoom in on Zealot. What were the little choice thingies?
sure.
I can't quite read that, unfortunately.
It's blessed scars. Oof. Just went nuts when I tried
There
to
we
do that.
go.
Unnerving clarity, or favored of the faithful. All of these seem like you had a horrible supernatural experience, and this is how you've survived as a result.
Well, I think maybe Zealot and Unnerving Clarity sounds nifty.
And you get 1d10 insanity points. So basically, you know the truth. You know that the Omnissiah's, the pure machine, has to purify the unholy things out here on the edge of space. And even other people don't know what you know. Yeah. Okay, so you can move to Zealot, and then moving over to Tanner. You can choose the same three things. Chosen by destiny.
Zealotry, chosen by destiny, and that tainted.
And duty bound, zealot, or chosen by destiny. Chosen by destiny. I didn't
Fated,
read that.
yeah.
Let's see, it says
Also, I found a file.
Oh, nice. Okay.
So, but read it anyway, so I can copy paste and get
Oh no,
your flavor.
we can work it out later. I'll read it for everyone else's sake as well.
Yeah.
You have a grand destiny that awaits you. Perfectly sane. After you've left your dark voyage that you survived, you know now that it's all part of a grand design of the Omnissiah. Wait, no, you're not. Of the God Emperor. I'm sorry, I'm getting my tech priestess mixed up. It's all a plan. It's the God Emperor's plan for your life. That's what actually happened, you see. And you quest, perhaps, for forbidden truths that have made you enemies among the stolen thinkers of the Imperium. Or perhaps in your heart you know that your fate lies on strange Xenos worlds or a great bloodline. It says either Seeker of Truth, Xenophile, meaning you like alien stuff, or Fated for Greatness.
I'm tempted to take Xenophile because I like my fellowship, but I'm probably going to take Fated for Greatness, if only not just for that fate point, which is essential in these games, but also 1d10 plus 1 insanity points. We haven't even started yet, and all of us are going bonkers.
Go, Team Insanity.
Yeah, we're gonna go fucking insanity!
You have delusions of grandeur.
Yeah, he what he saw in the void made him go a little bit loopy, but sometimes that loopiness helps. Sometimes it's what the team needs. Yeah, we're going insanity.
All right.
Fate for greatness.
Alex, you can choose either Chosen by Destiny or Zealot.
I can probably Chosen by Destiny as well, and probably my character is going to be a Seeker of Truth.
Nice. That's cool, actually, for a rogue trader. That's cool. All right, and then Mason, you were press ganged, and so now the lure of the void from the trial of having been press ganged, you were either tainted, a criminal, or a renegade.
Great options.
I'm tempted to go for tainted. That's what I'm tempted
Let's
for.
look at it. Tainted. Come on, let's go up here. Tainted. You are vile in the eyes of those that are holy. You were tainted. You're declared tainted by some twisted form or marked by an accursed bloodline. The contagion of evil, the judgment of the God Emperor's appointed servants. But despite the excoriation of these witless fools in their hands against you, your soul burns for greatness. You search relentlessly for the place where you can gain just a fraction of your rightful victory from this blighted fate. And you can be a mutant. Right off the bat. Or
Mutant's a madman right off the bat.
Or insane. Or have a deviant philosophy. You could be a heretic. Despite everything I said, you alone can have a secret heresy that you hold in the back of your mind and heart.
The other option was what? Criminal?
Yeah.
No, I just want to see what my options are.
No.
We're
And
just normal men. We're just
Forgive me.
innocent men.
Forgive me. This is what I thought. This is what I was pretty sure the humor was like. You know, like, frig, I lost my wristwatch.
Let's see here.
But yeah.
Criminal.
Yeah, but-
You're either so it says the wheels of imperial justice turn very slowly, and but they surely grind to pulp any life caught in their path. Hard labor, perhaps, at an imperial penal colony, or declared guilty by imperial law. This was I was talking about my Darktide character. The black paths of smugglers and renegades wind behind the facade of imperial society, offering dangerous refuge. You can be either a wanted fugitive, gaining an enemy, which will be a cop, an Adeptus Arbitus, or a peer, and a peer in the underworld. Hunted by a crime baron, or judged and found wanting. It says -5 fellowship. But you gain a poor bionic limb, a poorly crafted bionic limb or implant.
So
Step upon your journey.
I am really tempted to go for a tainted insane person right now.
Do it. Do it.
I think that's
Just
probably what
do
I'll do.
You
Tainted and
suffer your choice of several minuses, but you gain +3 toughness, the peer, which is the insane talent, and suffer 2d10 insanity points.
I like how the pre-gens were just like the A team, and now we're just
Just like crazy
like,
people
going for it.
who have like nearly just already lost their minds. Yeah. Okay, I'm glad we did this because this is expressing the setting. This is getting it across real nice. Okay. Back to Roar. From Renegade, you chose as your birthright that you were a scavenger.
Yes.
What is that? I think they probably would have known that. How were you a scavenger? Were you like in the on a planet somewhere and gathering pieces before you were inducted by the Mechanicum? How did that work?
Well, I was born on a Forge world,
Ah, yeah.
and
sorry,
I
that's
was like a scavenger in like the factories. I was good at finding the parts,
Yeah.
like lost parts and stuff.
Because in a Forge world, they would like build a new facility and then just abandon it and then build a new one on top of it. And there would be like these unknown parts of things that were built 5,000 years ago that no one knows how even they work anymore if you go low enough. And yeah, you were gathering, which would be an amazing D&D setting. Like just Mechanicus priests that go down into ancient Forge worlds. And anyways, okay, cool. Let's see. Tanner, you were chosen by destiny. And you can either choose Vaunted or a Savant.
Alright, what does each one provide me? Or what are the options?
Birthright. Vaunted or Savant.
So vaunted is being born into wealth and privilege, it seems, while savant means like kind of being a savant in the literal term, which is to say you were very dedicated to some sort of academic pursuit.
Alright, Savant it is.
All right. Yeah, you get and you don't have to write this down. I'll either provide it or I'll just put it in the sheet. So, by the way, real quick, basically, I've not had time much to prepare for this, but I've got some time this next week, so I can put a lot of work into this and be able to put everything into Roll20 if you don't have the book and things. All right, let's go back. We got Roar. Caleb, you were a zealot. You can now either be a vaunted, a savant, or a child of the creed.
I'm definitely inclined towards savant. What's a child of the creed? What's going on over there?
Child of the creed. It was not until comparatively late in your youth that you set foot in a room with the true music of the new sphere of the Omnissiah ringing in your ears from the clicking and ringing of the machines of cogitators of the blessed machine god. It was during your impressionable years you were shielded by the enfolding arms of the Mechanicus, the Mechanicum, and from much hardship and uncertainty, the unyielding visage of the machine god is part of your upbringing. And you know its scriptures, rituals, lessons, priestly exhortations. It says you gain the unshakable faith talent, and that's it. You get some bonuses, and -2 a weapon skill.
I think I might be inclined towards savant.
All right.
So
All right.
that seems acceptable.
Yeah, absolutely. You can draw your line. And then Mason, you can choose either scavenger or a scapegrace. A scapegrace.
Is that like a scapegoat?
It says,
Fancy word.
you were an orphan on the borderland between light. By the way, we're going backward in time in your life, right? So
I figured.
you're an orphan of the borderlands between light and dark. You spit your years and your wits as a scapegrace amidst entertainers, gangers, reclamators, and ne'er-do-wells on the fringes of imperial society. You were in the gray borderland of near outcast, mingled with shadowed figures and thrill seekers. I'm still trying to figure out what a scapegrace is after reading this.
Means I put. If my gut instincts is telling me, at least, I'll check out what a scapegrace is after. It's I think because a scapegoat is when you put all the sins on a goat and kick it out. You're kind of we'll keep you around as long as you're useful.
Okay, yeah.
You've got some unfortunate things in your backstory, but don't worry, we'll let you live for now.
It talks about like pleasure and games and rewards along the way. A body must eat, drink, live well, for death can come calling when it pleases.
Here we go, I found a definition for you.
Yeah. The etymology is definitely from scapegoat mixed with grace, literally denoting a person who escapes the grace of God. So it is a mischievous or wayward person.
Yeah, you gain sleight of hand and intelligence, perception, but you gain corruption points and insanity.
I think we'll go scapegrace.
All right.
Fun.
What a strange word.
All right, back to Roar. From there, you were born on a forge world, which makes sense. I think we know about that. Let's see. Caleb, as a savant, you were born either as a noble on a hive world or an imperial world, and I got to be honest and say I don't know what the imperial world stuff is.
Yeah, I think one way or another it's Mars, right? Like,
no, you don't have to. You could have been born somewhere else.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, I think I still might attempt to pick Mars, although I will think I've reflected and I've thought and I've diddled of that, and I think I'm gonna instead of savant, I think I will go with child of the creed. That's just, I mean, it's just.
Oh, and then be born on Mars.
And then be born on Mars.
I think that's probably imperial world, right? Because like
that's
it's
my
like
suspicion.
An imperial world is kind of just like any world that doesn't fall into a super specific. Like if there was, there's the possibility. And even I've seen examples in the books before where like planet Earth, if planet Earth was somehow under the jurisdiction, like as we are today under the jurisdiction of the Empire, the Imperials, we would be considered just like an Imperial world. You know, like not every place is a hive world and not every place is a forge world.
I would actually say that Mars is a forge world because check this out. It says stranger to the cult. Although the Forge world-born citizens know that the Emperor is their god and savior, they see this imperial creed through the lens of the cult Mechanicus doctrine. As a result, they can surprisingly and sometimes dangerously be ignorant of the common teachings of the ecclesiarchy, often failing to offer its clerics deference and respect. You get a -10, you know. So, but you would kind of start with this. And it says Credo Omnici, in fact. So is that kind of what you're going for? Beyond
I think
Mars?
that makes sense, yeah.
Yeah, okay. All right, and then let's see here. Tanner, you can be from a hive world, a noble, or an imperial world.
Imperial.
All right. And Mason, you can be from either a forge world, and by the way, you're all from the same one, so Roar and Caleb are from Mars. Well, is that okay? Roar? Since he's interested in Mars? Okay.
It's kind of like we went our separate paths.
Yeah, it's true. You all from there, you went, you were kind of like grew up together and then you went off and now you're back together as explorators. Okay. All right. Mason, you could also be from Mars or you can be born in space or you can be from a death world. Mason,
here's a direct answer here.
What did you get yourself into?
I don't know.
What makes the best story?
Well, he's certainly crazy enough to have come from a death world, because he's definitely not sane right now. But I'm thinking either the death world or the forge world. One of those two.
Death worlds would be like Katakan or Ball. Actually, I think most famous Imperial worlds are death worlds. Because
It means absolutely nothing to me because I don't know what those worlds are.
let me get.
Basically, death worlds are places that are like, it's almost unbelievable that people could survive or live on them, but you somehow do. Your people somehow do.
It says death worlds are teeming with threats to survival, meaning those who thrive on such planets are unlike anyone else. Peril and violence are a part of daily life, and you are stronger because of it. You're aggressive, inured to hardship, proficient at staying alive when others can't, aloof from your fellow man.
So part of the original inspiration for like Death Worlds, or at least like the imagery of it, partway through the game's lifespan is, have you ever seen the movie Aliens, or is it AVP, which is the one where it's Arnold Schwarzenegger with a whole bunch of soldiers and
Predator.
they're in this jungle. Predator, that's it. Predator. I could not think of it.
That's like
so
Katakan.
yeah. So imagine Predator, but like the places that the characters are in and the threats they deal with. Imagine if that's like their entire life, and that's how you live from birth to death.
Or like that world in Avatar, where you can't even breathe, and they're these things, they're trying to kill you all the time, they're bigger than you, and all kinds of stuff like that. Anyways.
I think we're going to go with Death World.
You get, I love some of these things that you get, and some of them make sense. You get, if it bleeds, I can kill it. Which just gives you training in primitive weapons, that's all.
But it sounds really cool.
Yeah, and you get hardened. It also fits your class well. You get more fate points, which is huge. No, you get a normal amount. Never mind, I misread that. But this is fun. Paranoid. The inherently dangerous conditions of the death world encourage distrust and doubt. You tend to be slow to put your faith in others, and chafe against petty strictures of complex society. So let's go back and look at what's happened. So you can draw your line to Death World now. And lastly, Alex, you can either be a noble or from an imperial world.
Definitely gonna go with noble. And
I'm glad.
Is now a good time to do like a little pitch on, I guess, what set the rogue trader, my character, off on the journey that we're going on? Is this a good time for that? Is that kind of applicable to the game?
Yeah, I think so. Let me look at where is let me see what this says. Just out of curiosity, the prose has me captured enough that I'm curious to see what it has to say about nobles. Hives. Come on. Where's the noble stuff? Imperial. Nobleborn.
Some things can be taught, others acquired by force or trade, but they are all inconsequential. The only thing that truly matters is the lineage of your blood.
Yeah. Nice.
That's some vampire shit right there.
This is perfect sense for a rogue trader. Connected, socially skilled, highly educated. You get legacy of wealth, supremely connected, and what feeds in a vendetta.
I'm also a little bit amused that the Death Worlder and the Imperial Worlder was very here, there, consistent. The Rogue Trader was, with the exception of the last one, just straight down, and then the Forge Worlders are all over the place to right back to the same spot. So there's some beautiful symmetry right here.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. No. What was your pitch, Alex? I'm interested to hear it for sure.
Figured that so rogue traders, I mean, they are like a noble family, so there are kind of like a lot of other members of the family, and for the most part they live in exquisite, utterly affluent wealth. But the rogue traders always have this, the family, the dynasty wants the wealth to survive forever. And so perhaps what the family has come to realize is that 300 years from now, we will no longer be able to afford our gilded partridge eggs, and that's awful. That's horrible. We need to pull out the old deed, and we're going to give it to the firstborn son, and it is on him to make sure that 300 years from now we can still afford this specific food item that we want on our tables. You know, and they just throw him out into the world.
Okay, Alex, and I think I have who your vendetta might be against based on the adventure. Unless you have ideas and we can thread that together.
I'd love to hear what you got. That's
right.
That right there is pretty much the extent of the idea that I had for why he would leave.
So I love it. I'm excited to hear about these characters. There are example names, or you can come up with one. You could just Google example Warhammer 40k names. They have a faux Latin quality to them usually, but it also depends on the world you're from. You can look up Mechanicum names as examples. Roar already has his E410, you know. But the last thing I want to talk about, and then I'll go back to something a little more boring, is let's go right into what has happened. Now, in the game, I will... Actually, no, we need to talk about the ship. Let me bring my... because you have a couple of choices, and you probably have to make your first roll for your ship. Because you basically have a couple of different outcomes that can happen. Give me a second here, it's real slow. And that's going to be profit factor versus ship points. So, basically, you have received... do you have your character's name already, Alex?
I made a roll right now, and it appears his first name is Darius.
Darius. I love it. Captain Darius, you as this firstborn son of a noble family, you're from an Imperial world. Are you from High Terra itself, or from Ultramar, or some kind of like fancy schmancy place or something?
I wasn't imagining being from Earth itself, or rather Terra itself, but Ultramar sounds like an interesting idea.
Yeah. The only problem with Ultramar is the people there are less decadent. You know, like they're very civically oriented and effective and organized and stuff. But whatever world, you're probably from some major world with this wealthy, decadent family, right? And you have this ancient warrant of trade. And you are starting out from nothing. But for you, nothing means like a giant cathedral starship and like trillions and trillions of dollars worth of money and tens of thousands of slaves under your command, right? Really paltry beginning. And then you'll work your way up from there. But you'll decide right now with this roll whether or not, and it's a simple D10. This is going to determine whether you start out with a lot of money and influence but not a great ship, or a great ship but not a lot of money and influence.
Want me to do a physical roll? I could flip my webcam down and make a roll.
You could do that, a physical roll, yeah. So, and I'll even tell you before you roll it, okay? If you roll high, a high number, you will start with a lot of money, but you'll start with a great ship but not good money. And if you roll low, you'll start with a lot of money but not a good ship.
Okay, let's see how it goes. I got an 8.
An 8. It says that your profit factor is 30 and your ship points are 60. You're a dynasty whose power is waning, but you may recover. And then, let's see here. Oh yeah, another fun thing is everybody gets to pick a piece of equipment from the armory, and you can pick absolutely anything, and I'll throw some ideas out. Starting with the robot people, if you want cybernetics or bionic replacements, you can do a stummer, which Well, you already have a servo skull, but also you can get a second servo skull if you want one. You can do a servitor, which is a robot slave man. You can do a... what else is cool here? You could do like a bionic limb, which gives you bonuses to tests. Like, for example, you could get bionic legs that give you a plus 20 to jumping or leaping. A baleful eye, which is these like cybernetic eyes you see. Augmented senses, a bionic heart. And anybody can have these. So you can have memory implants, locator matrix, mechadendrites, which are these like tentacle robot hands that come out of your body and can do things. What do y'all think?
Well, obviously, I want all of those, but perhaps the eye to start with.
Yeah, and you don't have to. So I'll mention some of these, and then you think I won't have the thing up. It takes forever to. Well, I'll try. I'll try to. No, I can't actually. It won't show. No, I can't. I can screen share it. Screen share. It's not super great, but there you go. Okay, and then you can do like melee weapons or things like a chain sword, a chain axe, which is a chainsaw that's a sword, but I think the blades are like a monomolecular tip. So it's like this like hyper sharp thing, and then there's just like tons of them, and they just and they can rip through like tanks and stuff. You can get a power maul, a power fist, which I also think are made for punching tanks. My video game knowledge might be messing with me, but power weapons are very powerful. A power sword. You could do... I'm not going to do a Harlequin's kiss. You're going to have to find that.
Classes do start with like a lot of strong weapons. Like the Explorer can start with a bolter and a power axe.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I think, people probably start with weapons. Or would you suggest maybe people, if they pick one thing, pick an implant then? Or I'm not going to do... So here's what I won't do starting out. I won't do like digital weapons, like personal, what do they call it? Power shields. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to do teleportation devices and digital weapons like the rings. I won't do that. But you could pick any weapon you want. You could also upgrade your weapon. So that's wild. Like you could add motion detection, omniscopes, silencers, telescopic sights, overcharge packs,
Silence bolter.
Yeah, I mean, like, there's like the stalker bolter, so you can get a bolter and then put a scope on it and make it a sniper bolter, which is like a giant sniper rocket launcher. What do y'all think? Or you can have free drugs. Everybody picks one thing.
Oh, free drugs. Well, I think it seems rogue traders, at least from what I could gather from their starting weapons and what I saw off the pre-gen, I think I'm definitely going to take the power sword for my guy. It seems they got that whole dueling with swords thing going on.
And you don't start with a power sword?
No, oh wow, okay, yeah, I do actually now that I look
just
at
in
that.
case maybe you want to upgrade it, like a weapon upgrade to the power sword, and I don't know if that's possible, but or maybe you can upgrade your pistol or get a different pistol and then have the power sword. I don't know.
I'll have to do some thinking. I forgot about that.
Okay, so the baleful eye for Caleb, it says that you get a each baleful eye is passed from recipient to recipient across millennia.
Ugh.
So some person had this bionic eye thousands of years ago, and it's passed down as a lineage amongst the machine cult. Each character with this implant has a weapon equal to a hell pistol inside of your eye, which with a range of 10 meters. It can be fired even if your hands are full.
It's gotta be rough on your neck.
It just
like the concussions.
It shoots a melta beam out of your like skull from your eye, and it's like a heirloom that's been passed down for thousands of years. Are you sure you choose this?
It's doing a lot for me.
Mason, what do you want? You can also do armor. Also, I guess you need to know what your character already has, right?
Yeah, I don't know what I start with.
All right, let's look at it. We're almost done. I hope this is okay, just talking about what the characters have.
I've got no qualm with shopping.
I would rather talk about this than like the rules. The rules. Okay, real quick about the rules. Here's the bottom line about a complex rule set for me. I don't know all the rules. I don't even know them that well. I have skimmed over them. The core rule mechanic of a game is its primary means of adjudication and task resolution, right? So like if something happens, you have a skill that's going to be like 56, whatever it is, and you're going to roll a D100 and you're going to try to get under it. And you're going to have bonuses and minuses to that. That's the game. Like, and if there's ever any question or doubt, we'll always go back to that. A couple of things I'll add to that is I put combat tactics that you can do on a combat round. I put that in Roll20 that you can always use. Because like 5e, but like 3 times more. You've got aiming, and like, but you can do a half aim or a full aim, and you can aim for body parts and blow their heads off, and you can do all kinds of stuff. And I put that in Roll20. I will put more stuff in Roll20 by next week, hopefully. The other thing you should know, and you guys who played Zweihander, or if you've played Warhammer Fantasy, you know about this, is there are these things called fate tokens. Now, in Zweihander, you did not have as many, and they had a bad effect if you used them. They would like go up and down, and I would get them, and I would use them against you. None of that's in this game. You start out with 2 or 3 fate tokens, and I'm gonna give you fate tokens every time you do something cool. And fate tokens are going to be what allow you to succeed in this game, because your skills suck. It'll be like roll under a 40% on a D100 is going to be what you're trying to do, and you're going to fail. And you're going to just throw fate tokens at it. And you're going to have this agency as a player to choose when you want to take those risks and sacrifice your fate tokens. That's my short explanation of the game. Anything other than that is gravy or extra. Like we'll do it if we can, kind of thing. Oh yeah, I was looking at what your equipment is. Gosh darn it!
Also, how do you feel about the name Ramirez for a name?
I love it.
Yeah, maybe his imperial planet was a smidge closer to the equator, so most of it looks like Greece or Egypt. I figure an Egyptian name will make him a smidge different from the others without making it like Mary Sue different. And it's an archaic name, which Tanner loves those.
Yeah, love it. Okay, so Mason, you have starting out a hell gun. You all correct me if I'm wrong. A hell gun is a pistol melt-a-gun, right? It's a melt-a-gun.
No. Hell gun is a las gun, but it's got you attach it to a bigger power pack. So imagine if you had, like, to put it in real life terms, you had an M16, but it was chambered with like 50 caliber bullets or something like that. It's basically
it's a las gun, but like bigger oomph.
Yeah, much bigger charge. Yeah.
So when you Caleb, the laser gun in your eye, it shoots a powerful laser out of your eye. I had that wrong. I'm sorry. So anyways, you have a powerful laser gun, Mason, a hell gun. You have a hunting rifle that is of the highest craftsmanship or you can have 2 dual bolt pistols, which I think you can fire both in a round, but at minus 20 for each hit, but you can modify that. In addition, you have 1 high craftsmanship primitive weapon that can have a mono upgrade. So you can have like a spear, but then the blade is monomolecular, making it like a sci-fi spear or whatever. I don't care, like some primitive weapon. You've got microbeads, which is like an earpiece, a void suit. You already start with Enforcer light carapace armor, a medikit, and manacles. A data slate full of wanted bounties or an arms coffer or 3 doses of stim. So, you already have like a lot of cool gear. Do you just want like a cybernetic implant or something?
Yeah.
What other kind of implants do we have? You could have the laser eye. You can have robotic limbs, robotic lungs, robotic heart. You could have a mechadendrite that is a gun, as I understand it. It's a tentacle robot arm that comes out of your body, but then it has a gun on it too. Yeah. You can have a computer in your brain. You can have bone armor.
Could we go for cybernetic senses?
Cybernetic senses. Yeah, so it gives you plus 20 to resist attacks on the sense itself, such as deafening or blinding. Yes, cybernetic senses. What are you thinking, Tanner?
For what I get for a extra goodie?
Yeah.
Probably no to anything mechanical put into the body.
You can get grenades, like inferno shells, man-stopper bullets. I feel like it's kind of not a good... I mean, if you can get anything, you might as well get something crazy, right?
Yeah. Well, what's the craziest item there?
I think it's probably an implant or a replacement limb. Those are the craziest things, like to have a tentacle robot arm come out of yourself and like act as an extra action or an extra attack in a round.
Sorry, I just graffitied the universe real quick, and I'd like the billions of people to not freak out. Let's see here.
Do you like your weapons? Because you could get a different weapon.
Well, what would I start with regularly? And then could you very quickly go through...
Oh, you're a Cineskull, right?
Yeah, Cineskull.
Okay. Cineskull.
A hell pistol or an infernal pistol, a hell gun or a bolt gun, and then some pretty nice armor. So you start with guns.
Okay. So I start with ranged weapons, I start with armor.
Yeah, you can have a bolt gun. Holy smokes.
Oh, you also get
Or a
a Camelio line cloak. I'm not sure if that's the one that blends in. Let me check, but you get a cloak.
Wow. Yeah, like how Space Marine scouts have, and Xenomesh armor. You have alien armor. Crazy.
Invisibility cloak, alien armor, bolter. What complements that?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like, you might as well either get an implant, or you could get a robot buddy, like a slave, a servitor that follows you around.
In that case, I shall choose the servitor.
Servitor. Tanner. Okay. And then you guys have the book, but just out of curiosity, Roar and Alex, what are you all thinking of taking?
I'm looking at the cybernetics,
Nice.
but I haven't. There's just so many nice ones that I can't decide. Even like the mecha hands. There's like so many versions of them.
You're like, I imagine like you're like this robot man in like Mars Sears or Mars, you know, shopping, and you're just like, like which limb should I replace? It's a good place to be as a
Am I correct in
robot
thinking
priest.
that he would look like a robed cyberpunk version of like the troops from Wizards? With the gas masks who yell out they killed Fritz?
I'm not familiar with that, but it sounds right.
Never mind then.
It sounds right though.
Choose the mechanical heart to better love the machines.
Pretty much.
I don't see where it says picking your ship stuff. I think we're supposed to design the ship together too, and I don't want to design the whole.
Chapter 8 starts on page 193, it seems.
Ooh, wonderful.
Yeah, it looks like you like make a
Starship.
ship like a character with its own stats.
Yeah, and we might have to have like a round 2 where we just like make our
I'm
ship.
cool with that.
But
I've also got time here, so whatever makes you guys happy.
I would hate to like not spend time doing this. However, I will say, no, it will kind of come into play. And I don't know however many, let's see, how much does it have like a price? Ship points, 30. How many ship points do you have?
60. Ooh,
60.
so that could make it easy if I just picked like a ship worth 60.
Yeah, just to start with, you know what I'm saying? And then we can kind of go from there. It looks like you can get a real big dang ship though. Where's the big ship?
It seems the biggest, the cruiser is the at least of what it gives.
The only thing is,
Badass.
you might want to not get the biggest ship so that you can put awesome stuff on the ship. I don't know. You know what I'm saying?
I think these. Maybe you're saying that's the ship points value of the ship. Okay, I get it. That does not come with the rest. Okay, I got you.
Yeah, actually, this doesn't say how much these are. Oh, it should have a chart then. No, it does not have a chart. There it is, chart. Okay, so it has. Come on, give me the chart. Ship points. So, for example. No, it doesn't say. I'm confused. Oh, because ships have all of these? I guess.
I think the SP is the price of kind of like the base ship, but then it also has capacity to put more things on it, I think. But I'm not finding the price of the stuff you put on it yet.
I'm guessing that if it has an SP value, that it's something extra. No, that doesn't make sense. Like you can pick one, right? But if you get a deep void auger array instead of an M20 LB auger array, you're gonna have to spend a ship point. Tell me about the stuff to blow up planets. A lance. It doesn't say. There it is, ship points. So for example, for a Ryza pattern plasma battery, it's 2 ship points. So, okay. Just as a starter, you can think about that and get back. You have the book. Maybe that could be a discussion. Okay, so last thing before we go, I'm going to shut down my screen share because we're almost out of time here. So, what are you doing? Do you have a name for your ship?
I suppose not, but we can make
you can toss the name back and forth. It starts out as something like the Sovereign franchise or the Sovereign Endeavor or something, but you can totally choose the name of your ship. But you, Captain Darius, the rogue trader, you have received a writ of claim, and you have submitted for an administratum authorization based on a salvation beacon that you've identified outside of Port Wonder in a place called the Battleground. Now, to get to the Battleground, you'll need to travel through the Maw, which is this area of unstable warp space. But on the other side of it is a Lathe-type cruiser, if I'm not mistaken, the Emperor's Bounty. An entire ship, an entire cruiser for you to claim. It would nearly double your wealth. And that's where we begin next week.
I have a question about space.
Yeah.
What is a cemetery world?
This is something I'm not super good at. However, the Imperium designates different types of worlds. For example, agri-worlds, hive worlds, manufactorums, and then you have like fortress worlds, and you have worlds that are only for religious things. Oh, it has it listed here: agri-world, feudal world, feral world. And then
so I think a cemetery world in particular, it's one because it's one of the few that's not self-explanatory, right? I think what a cemetery world is there was a giant war fought there or in the area, and the planet itself is no longer feasible to live on.
Is a cemetery. I think
exactly. It's like a monument to the war.
And I've read in, I think it was the Blood Angels novels. They had a battle there. I think it was. I can't remember. On a cemetery world, and it's just the entire planet is a graveyard for all the people, the trillions and trillions of humans that have been interred there.
I love the feudal worlds.
Yeah, because you can show up with freaking plasma pistols and power armor like a demigod, and they're in there like freaking medieval knights and castles and stuff. And they're like, oh, the angels of the God Emperor have come and stuff. Like, yeah.
There's a lot of like there's custom models for the Imperial Guard from the feudal world, and they're all like they're wearing like old medieval helmets and stuff.
That's great. And in case for Mason and Caleb, the way space works, you said, how's space work? Well, you rip reality open and travel through hell. If you've ever seen the movie, what is the? And people say it's connected to Warhammer, and I don't think so. But like, what's that horror movie?
Event Horizon.
Event Horizon. If you've ever seen Event Horizon,
that one's more Clive Barker than Warhammer, but you can still an alien, but you can still see little driplets of Warhammer in the public consciousness.
Just this idea that you rip, or another one would just be Doom, where you like rip reality open, enter into hell to travel through to the other side. And then in what they do is they have something called a Geller field, which prevents demons from coming in and devouring you all. And you use like Dune style navigators who are able to navigate in the warp. And the Emperor, old gold man back on Earth, his whole job, or a main part of his job, is all the souls that he's fed powers a beacon that allows the navigators to see across thousands of light years.
Like a giant living lighthouse that can be seen through hell.
The Astronomicon.
Another good thing that I really like to reference for what happens when the Geller field goes down, because it's something that a lot of people know about nowadays, at least people like that are my age. The game series Dead Space. That pulls a lot of inspiration from like what would happen if the Geller field goes down, and then everybody on board goes insane, and perhaps the Geller field comes back, but everybody on board is already afflicted. They are already insane, already literally inundated with demons.
And that's what happened on your dark voyage in some way or another, really, probably, Caleb and Tanner. Okay, well, I'm excited then to, in the context of that background, with all these insane, crazy people, madmen and robot people, cyborg people, and people with delusions of grandeur to try to obtain the Emperor's bounty. And that's the end of the session. I'll see you all next week.